Hi guys, it's Mishel, Deception Bytes, and it is September 13th and it's 5:04 p.m. Eastern Time. What we're going to be doing today is going over the Q post from yesterday, September 12th. There have been no additional posts for today, the 13th, but I will continue to monitor that and keep an eye to see if there are any posts for today. And today is a very busy news day, as I'm sure you are all aware of. There's a lot going on, and I probably have enough material for 2 additional videos of Q-related news. So we'll see how it goes. Very busy news day. Things are happening very quickly. Plus, we have the hurricane happening, and my thoughts and prayers are with everyone that is in the path of that. I pray that if that is you, that you will take this serious and prepare as best you can, or evacuate if need be. Now, they have downgraded it, but I just don't trust this storm. Not that I'm anybody. I'm not a meteorologist by any extent of the imagination. But I just don't have a good feeling about this storm, and I'll tell you why. The ground is saturated both in North Carolina and in Louisiana, the Savannah area. I have a close friend that lives in Savannah, and his parents live, they have a farm about 20 miles from the coast, and the water is just standing. The ground is literally saturated. So I believe this is going to be a big rainmaker, and I think that flooding is going to be a big issue. Not only that, but we have activity in the Gulf, and of course, Louisiana and Texas are in the same boat. The ground is saturated. Now, I don't know if you remember Hurricane Hugo, but that was a situation where the ground was completely saturated, and it was the first time in history that a hurricane ever gained strength over land, and it did so because there was so much water. The ground had been saturated. So I just don't have a good feeling about this, and I really don't believe that we're being told the truth. I don't know. I could be wrong, but it just seems like the setup for the perfect storm, per se. So I guess time will tell. I hope I'm wrong. I really pray that I'm wrong. But again, if you're in the path of this storm, don't take it lightly. And even if it's downgraded, please listen to reason. And it is so much better to be safe than sorry. And I think a lot of people that live in hurricane-prone zones tend to get a little bit jaded. They tend to think, well, the last one was okay. This is going to be okay too. You really can't do that with hurricanes because they're so unpredictable. But anyway, we're going to move on. This is certainly not about the hurricane. It is about Q posts. So we're going to certainly proceed with that now. Now, we're going to start with the first post from September 12th, and I'm going to take you up until the end of September 12th, which will mean that any new posts that come along, we will be ready to start right in on those. All right, here we go. How do you inflict maximum pain / damage? Drop daily carpet bombs. Rats running. Then you drop or release the mother of all bombs. Now, here we go. We're going to go to this link that Q has provided for us and check that out. And this is Sarah Carter, of course. How anti-Trump leakers moved from offense to defense. Picture of Strzok there. Almost looks like a decent guy there. Almost. A trail of evidence appearing in major news outlets suggests a campaign to undermine, President Trump from within the government through illegal leaks of classified information and then thwart congressional investigators probing the disclosures. On Monday, the Justice Department released a handful of texts and other documents that included two former officials known for their anti-Trump bias, Peter Strzok and Lisa Page of the FBI, discussing the DOJ's media leak strategy. Strzok now says, through his lawyer, that the strategy was aimed at preventing leaks. Nevertheless, days later, he and Page approvingly mentioned forthcoming news articles critical of Trump associates. The leaks have been coming out of the FBI and DOJ since 2016 are unconscionable, says retired FBI Supervisory Special Agent James Gagliano. There's a difference between whistleblowing and leaking for self-serving or partisan purposes, which, of course, is exactly what they were doing. They were doing it for both self-seeking and partisan purposes. The leaks that have been coming out of the FBI and DOJ since 2016 are unconscionable. Past and present U.S. officials say the template, now pay attention to that word, the template for the leak campaign can be traced back to the Obama administration's efforts to sell the 2015 Iran nuclear deal, which made the press reliant on background conversations and favorable leaks from government officials. Obama advisor Ben Rhodes told the New York Times in 2016 that we cracked an echo chamber that, quote, helped retail the administration's narrative. Interesting that they put it that way, to retail the administration's narrative. Interesting. That same configuration, said Michael Doran, a senior official in the George W. Bush White House, the press, political operatives, newly minted experts, social media validators, was repurposed to target Trump, his campaign, transition team, then the presidency. The echo chamber's primary instrument in attacking the current White House, said Doran, is the Russian collusion narrative. And, of course, we all know now that there was no Russian collusion. Well, there was, but it was certainly not associated with Trump. It was Clinton et al. RCI has found that the anti-Trump leaks fall into two broad categories or phrases. Initially, the leaking was an offensive operation aimed at disrupting Trump's agenda, especially through leaks alleging connections between his campaign and the Russians. Its early successes, including leaks of highly classified material that led to the firing of National Security Advisor Michael Flynn and the recusal of Attorney General Jeff Sessions from overseeing that probe. The second phase, which began roughly a year into the Trump administration, has been more defensive, pushing back against congressional oversight committees that had uncovered irregularities. Sorry about that. Excuse me. That had uncovered irregularities in the FBI's investigation of Trump. This phase has been marked by the willingness of press outlets to run stories backing off earlier reported leaks that proved to be deeply misleading, including the roots of the FBI's investigation of the Trump campaign and the relationship between Deputy Attorney General Bruce Orr and the opposition research firm that produced a central document of that probe, the largely discredited Steele dossier. The second phase has also included articles and opinion pieces, some written by journalists who have published classified information, dismissing suspicions of an orchestrated campaign against Trump as, to use the phrase invoked in a recent New York article, a conspiracy theory. Former Obama officials and their press allies can call it a conspiracy theory or whatever they want. A senior U.S. official familiar with how Obama holdovers and the media jointly targeted Trump figures told RCI, but they can't say it's not true that former Obama officials were furiously leaking to keep people close to Trump out of the White House. The focus of the ongoing anti-Trump campaign became clear in March 2016 when the candidate identified Carter Page and George Papadopoulos as foreign policy advisors. For reasons that remain unclear, FBI officials decided that Page, in particular, was a Russian asset and that others on the team might be as well. Instead of alerting Trump to this possibility, law enforcement set up a sting operation. As RCI had previously reported, FBI informants and figures associated with Western intelligence approached the Trump team with offers of Russian-sourced dirt on Clinton. Among the 7 mysterious approaches, the most significant, as RCI recently reported, was a Russian lawyer's June 9th meeting at Trump Tower in Manhattan with Donald Trump Jr. and others. That meeting now appears especially suspicious, but not for reasons cited by Trump critics. It was revealed that the Russian lawyer, Natalia Veselnitskaya, I can't pronounce her last name, I apologize, met the day before and the day after the Tower meeting with Glenn Simpson, whose opposition research firm, Fusion GPS, was being retained by her as well as the Clinton campaign. At the same time, Simpson, a former Wall Street Journal reporter, was working with a former British spy, Christopher Steele, and Nellie Orr, Bruce Orr's wife, to assemble a series of reports alleging Trump's ties to the Kremlin. In late summer, the Steele dossier, portrayed by media outlets as the work of a conscientious foreign analyst frightened by Trump's unsavory connections, was circulated to Washington's newsrooms. Yahoo News and Mother Jones published articles based on Steele's briefings. High-profile columnists at other publications, The Atlantic, The Washington Post, Slate, The New Yorker, Newsweek, and The Weekly Standard, rehashed dossier talking points. The collusion narrative became fully operational at the end of October when the anti-Trump efforts of the Clinton campaign, the media, and the FBI intersected. Even though then Director James B. Comey considered the dossier salacious and unverified, the FBI used it and a Yahoo News article based on Steele's report to obtain a warrant to spy on Page weeks before the election. Those efforts might have been lost to history but for a stunning event: Trump's victory. As Jonathan Allen and Amy Parnes reported in their book, Shattered, Inside Hillary Clinton's Doomed Campaign, within 24 hours of her concession speech, campaign chairman John Podesta and manager Robbie Mook assembled her communications team at the Brooklyn headquarters to engineer the case that the election wasn't entirely on the up and up. Already, Russian hacking was the centerpiece of the argument. Still in power in the lame duck period, members of the Obama administration started to play offense, illegally leaking highly classified information aimed at undermining the new administration's agenda by raising concerns about Russian interference. Weeks before the inauguration, a January 12, 2017 article by Washington Post columnist David Ignatius revealed the incoming National Security Advisor Michael Flynn, whom President Obama had fired and warned Trump against hiring, had a phone conversation with the Russian ambassador. That information came from a highly classified NSA intercept. A February 9th news story in the Post drew on more illegally leaked material to further a fuller account of Flynn's conversations with the Russian ambassador. They discussed sanctions that had been imposed by the Obama administration before leaving office. Other news outlets, especially CNN, BuzzFeed, and the New York Times, published such material, but the February 9th Post story is especially telling because one of its reporters was Adam Antis, who was also a co-author of the recent New Yorker article dismissing the idea of a leak campaign coordinated between Obama-era officials and the press as a conspiracy theory. Now, you may wonder why I am reading all this. Well, it's important because this is an especially well-written kind of, I guess, it encapsulates everything that happened. And it's, I think it's good, and also Q referred to it, so I think it's especially good that we understand exactly what it's saying because it puts everything in perspective, I believe. Before leaving the Post, Entis co-wrote a series of 2017 pieces regarding Trump associates based on leaks of classified intelligence. A March 1st article about Jeff Sessions' meeting with the Russian ambassador was sourced to intercepts of the diplomat's communications. An April 11th article that has now caught the attention of the House Oversight Committee revealed the active FBI investigation on Page. Entis' recent New York article dismissing concerns about leaks, co-written with Ronan Farrow, does not mention these stories. When reached by Real Clear Investigations, Entis said he had no immediate comment. The first phase of the leak campaign was largely successful in raising doubts about whether the Trump administration really did put America first. It normalized charges of treason lodged against the president by Democrats and former Obama officials now working for the media, including former CIA Director John Brennan. But the landscape began to change near the end of Trump's first year in the office, forcing his opponents to shift from playing offense to defense. By then, the White House had replaced many Obama-era holdovers and never Trump Republicans. A number of senior officials at the DOJ and FBI, for instance, resigned, were fired, or reassigned and no longer in position to feed the news cycles with a steady stream of classified intelligence. More important, the leakers presumably knew they were being watched, as congressional oversight committees found evidence of irregularities regarding the FBI's 2016 investigation. Anti-Trump operatives inside and outside the government used new leaks in an apparent effort to cover their tracks. For instance, after pressure from congressional Republicans showed that the Steele dossier was funded by the Democrats, a new origin story for the FBI's probe was leaked. In December 2017, the New York Times reported that the investigation actually began with a tip from another presumably apolitical foreign national, Australian diplomat Alexander Downer. According to the Times, he reported that Trump campaign advisor Papadopoulos had informed him that the Russians had political dirt on Hillary Clinton during what the Times characterized as a night of heavy drinking. Downer never mentioned emails, but the Times slates that the dirt he referred to was almost certainly the emails stolen from Democrats and published by WikiLeaks in 2016. That version is now in doubt, as Papadopoulos, who was just sentenced to 14 days in prison for lying and other matters in the Russia probe, says he doesn't remember saying anything to Downer about Russia. While standing firm on his central allegations about Russian dirt, Downer says that they only had a single drink and a brief discussion. Favored media outlets also began running stories aimed at discrediting congressional oversight committees that challenged their reporting. In the spring, congressional Republicans asked the DOJ for information regarding any FBI informants ordered to follow the Trump campaign. The press quoted anonymous officials warning that oversight committees were endangering national security. But it was they who leaked to the press personal details of the informant's identity. A May 21st Washington Post article produced the informant's name, Stefan Halper, a 75-year-old academic researcher with long-standing ties to American and British intelligence. The leaks were intended to paint Republicans as reckless partisans willing to risk the safety of constituents, a congressional investigator said. The purpose explained the source is to warn Trump against declassifying and to shape public reception against him if he does. Now, congressional Republicans are urging the president to declassify 3 sets of documents. 20 pages of the final renewal of the warrant to spy on Carter Page in June 2017. Records of the FBI's 12 interviews with Bruce Orr, and exculpatory material related to the warrant on Page. And anti-Trump officials continue to dig in, preemptively leaking information about CIA and FBI Russia-related operations that appears to combine classified intelligence with some degree of fiction intended to obscure wrongdoings. Halper's name popped up again last month in the New York Times. A veteran GOP operative helper collected intelligence on Trump associates. But according to unnamed officials quoted in the story, uncovering his identity has had a chilling effect on intelligence collection against Russian targets. Informants close to President Vladimir V. Putin in the Kremlin, who provided crucial details to U.S. intelligence about the 2016 race, have gone silent, the Times reported. A Washington Post article last year, co-written by Antis, made similar claims about U.S. intelligence sources close to Putin. According to the story, the Obama White House knew of Putin's direct involvement in a cyber campaign to disrupt and discredit the U.S. presidential race based on a report drawn from sourcing deep inside the Russian government. In the 2017 If the 2017 Post story is true, that would explain why U.S. intelligence is blind on Russia going into the 2018 midterm elections. After American spies leaked classified intelligence regarding informants in Putin's inner circles, Moscow would have moved quickly to shut down those channels. But present and former intelligence officials doubt the veracity of both the Times and the Post stories. Our sources and methods are sacred, and what we do regarding Russia is extraordinarily secret, former CIA Moscow station chief Daniel Hoffman told RCI. The stuff we do on Russia is so highly compartmentalized that only a handful of people in the CIA know anything about it, never mind the intelligence community as a whole, said Hoffman. Journalists wouldn't get to speak with anyone who does know. I guarantee the authors of these stories don't know anyone who runs our Russian operations. U.S. intelligence officials in the know say former and current officials are unlikely to inform Putin via the American press that the U.S. previously infiltrated his inner circles. The apparent purpose of the article, say sources, is to deter Trump from declassifying documents damaging to the law enforcement and intelligence agencies. Another recent Times story that has raised eyebrows is its September 1st account of the FBI's effort to recruit Russian businessman Oleg Deripaska, an oligarch close to Putin, as an informant, published just days after the release of documents showing that the DOJ's Bruce Orr was in close contact with Christopher Steele, who was employed by Deripaska's London lawyer. The Times story reports that the FBI operation included Orr and Steele. According to the Times, Deripaska was one among half a dozen Putin associates that the FBI attempted to recruit for the purpose of reporting on Moscow's efforts to interfere in the 2016 election. Now, a congressional Republican source who spoke to RCI on the condition of anonymity is skeptical of the Times account. The takeaway is that in trying to flip a Putin-allied oligarch, the FBI told Putin that they're investigating his interference in the 2016 elections. That is not a good look. It looks like the story they're trying to bury is that in the period leading up to the FBI's using the dossier to get a warrant to spy on the Trump campaign, a senior DOJ official whose wife, Nellie Orr, worked on the dossier is meeting with the author of the dossier, who works for a Putin ally. Sources say the Orr story is evidence that the leak campaign is continuing even as it is being exposed. And a precedent has been established with this joining together of political operatives, law enforcement, and intelligence officials to prosecute a campaign based on illegal leaks of classified intelligence. It's not hard to imagine it happening again, regardless of who the next president is and regardless of the party. So this was originally published at realclearpolitics.com, and I think it's an exceptionally well done article and has a lot of information in it. So let's go back and see what Q is wanting to tell us. So Sessions and Flynn targeted for immediate removal / recusal. So they were targeted for removal recusal. Sessions, Senate confirmation vote. I can't remember the exact, but it wasn't, I mean, he just barely squeaked by. Whereas Rod Rosenstein, his Senate confirmation vote was almost unanimous. Reconcile. If Sessions wasn't a threat, why was he the primary target? Well, that's a good question, isn't it? Why was it critical to remove Rod Rosenstein into DOJ acting Attorney General appointment of Mueller / director of the special committee oversight authority? Why was it critical to move Rod Rosenstein into the DOJ acting Attorney General? Well, because he was then able to appoint Mueller as the direct special committee oversight. And so Rod Rosenstein had authority over it by hiring Mueller, who were both dirty, right? We know that they were both dirty. So if you know what your enemy is planning, how do you prepare strategically? Think today. Left supporting Sessions? Well, since they know they knew what the enemy was planning, how did they prepare strategically? Well, one of the ways was by pitting Donald Trump against Sessions, because they knew that if they did that, then of course the left would certainly support Sessions, which is exactly what's happening right now. The left thinks Sessions is great. Why? Because Trump keeps dissing him. Right. Left defending Sessions? Sure they are. Sure they are. If they only knew. Strategic advantage? Absolutely. It is a strategic advantage in terms of, Trump. Because when Sessions comes out, they're going to have a hard time backtracking because they're the ones that have been defending him and supporting him. So the left is going to have a hard time backpedaling when they're the ones that have been supporting him when Sessions comes out against them. Absolutely. Now, let's go to the next. Here we go. And Fox News. New Strzok page texts reveal others were leaking like mad in lead up to Trump Russia probe. Mad leakers. New text messages between ex-FBI employees Peter Strzok and Lisa Page reveal others were leaking like mad in the run-up to the Trump... Hang on here. This is going to start playing. Yes, it is.
All right, get this. Newly revealed...
Okay, they were leaking like mad. They were mad leakers. In the run-up to the Trump-Russia collusion probe, according to new communications between the former lovers obtained exclusively by Fox News. A lengthy exchange dated December 15, 2016 appears to reveal a potential leak operation for political purposes. Oh, remind me to tell you tomorrow about the Times doing a story about the RNC hacks, Page texted Strzok. And more than they already did? I told you, Quinn told me they're pulling out all the stops on some stories, Strzok replied. A source told Fox News Quinn could be referring to Richard Quinn, who served as a chief of the media and investigative publicity section in the Office of Public Affairs. Quinn could not be reached for comment. Strzok again replied, "Think our sisters have begun leaking like mad, scorned and worried and political. They're kicking into overdrive." In one passage, Strzok apparently misreads a reference to RNC as MC and then, realizing his error, blames Old Man Eyes. It is unclear at this point to whom Strzok was referring when he used the term sisters. "Think our sisters have begun leaking like mad, scorned and worried and political. They're kicking into overdrive." Peter Strzok to Lisa Page, retired FBI special agent and former FBI national spokesman John Iannarelli told Fox News it could be a reference to another government agency. Sisters is an odd phrase to use. Iannarelli told Fox News Wednesday. It could be any intelligence agency or any other federal law enforcement agency. The FBI works with all of them because post 9/11, it's all about cooperation and sharing. There are 17 agencies in the intelligence community, including the CIA, the Office of the Director of National Intelligence, the National Security Agency, and the FBI. The leaking like mad text came on the same day that several news outlets reported that U.S. intelligence officials said they were convinced that Russian President Vladimir Putin was personally involved and approved Russian meddling in the 2016 presidential election. Days before, the New York Times published an article titled "Russian Hackers Acted to Aid Trump in Election," U.S. says, citing senior administration officials. A story published by the New York Times Weeks on January 10, 2017, suggested that Russian hackers gained limited access to the Republican National Committee. January 10, 2017 is also the same day BuzzFeed News published the infamous anti-Trump dossier. Following the text about sisters leaking, Strzok wrote to Page, "And we need to talk more about putting C reporting in our submission. They're going to declassify all of it." Page replied, "I know, but they're going to declassify their stuff. How do we withhold? We will get extraordinary questions. What we're doing, just want to ensure everyone is good with it and has thought through all implications," Strzok wrote. CD should bring it up with DD. A source told Fox News that C is likely in reference to classified information, whereas CD is cyber division and DD could refer to former FBI Deputy Director Andrew McCabe. McCabe was fired by Attorney General Jeff Sessions in March for making an unauthorized disclosure to the news media and lacked candor under oath on multiple occasions. It is unclear what submissions Strzok and Page were referring to. A source told Fox News that the messages were part of a newly released batch of Strzok-Page communications from Justice Department Inspector General Michael Horowitz, uncovered as part of his investigation into the start of the FBI's Russia investigation. A spokesman for the Inspector General declined to comment to Fox News. Strzok and Page were first brought into the spotlight last December when it was revealed that Horowitz discovered a series of anti-Trump text messages between the two officials who were romantically involved. And I'm not going to read further because I think that that is the bulk of what Q is wanting us to know there. And we'll go to the next one. And this is a tweet by Fox Business. Jim Jordan, we're still waiting to get all the documents from Rod Rosenstein and the Justice Department. That's why we push so hard. Now, let's take a listen to this.
His wife, we're still waiting to get all the documents from Rod Rosenstein and the Department of Justice. It's why we've pushed so hard. But never forget the basics. Bruce Orr, a top Justice Department official. His wife worked for the firm hired by the Clintons to put together the dossier. Bruce Orr, according to Peter Strzok's testimony when I asked him this question in the hearing several weeks ago, Bruce Orr was giving the information to the FBI, the dossier itself. So his wife's working for the firm hired by the Clintons to put together the document that was then given to the FBI and used to go to the FISA court to spy on the other campaign. It is never supposed to work that way in this country, and yet it did. And to buttress all that effort, they were leaking information to the press to write stories favorable to what they were trying to accomplish. Again, that is never supposed to happen either, but it sure looks like it did.
All right. Now, let's go back and go to the next. And this is America's Newsroom. Watch at Sanders Smith Fox spoke with at Jim Jordan about Representative Mark Meadows sending a letter to Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosenstein alleging Strunk page texts reveal a media leak strategy. Now let's listen to this.
We see now, we see that there was the argument
beginning.
that Mr. Strzok's making just doesn't hold water and doesn't pass the smell test. I mean, remember, this is the same guy that said we will stop Trump. This is the same people who said that, you know, Trump should lose 100 million to zero. So their bias was pretty darn clear from some of the earlier text messages we see. Now we see that there was a media strategy, a leak strategy to influence this whole thing. And we know this from the Inspector General's report. I remember one of the things the Inspector General cited, Sandra, was 13 different FBI people who were working with one reporter. Now, if that doesn't point to some kind of media strategy, leak strategy, I don't know what does.
We're all left wondering what exactly that is, because here's what Strzok's attorney issued via a statement. The attorney said, quote, the term media leak strategy in Mr. Strzok's text refers to a department-wide initiative to detect and stop leaks to the media. The president and his enablers are once again peddling unfounded conspiracy theories to mislead the American people.
Yeah, if their strategy was to stop the leaks, they sure didn't do a very good job because they were everywhere. Also, remember this, the dossier was the key. The dossier is what they took, uncorroborated, a non-credible dossier they took to the secret court to get the warrant to spy on the other campaign. That dossier was buttressed by leaks that they were giving to the press stories that were coming from the FBI, coming from the very sources who put together the dossier. It is never supposed to work that way, but in fact it did. And so now for them to say, "Oh no, we were working to try to stop this," just doesn't pass the smell test, as I said before.
All right, interesting. Now, let's go back to Q. Hang on here, this needs to be on the next line. Okay, now he says, with panic comes mistakes. With panic comes betrayal. With panic comes testimony. With panic comes ... These people are stupid. FISA goes both ways, meaning they spied on him, Trump spies on them. And then it says plus. Hoo-ah. I don't know how to say that the way it's supposed to be said. Q. Now, let's, I've got some extra information that I've put in here regarding this post. Now, I've just, my air conditioner is extremely loud and it's hot in here. And so I just turned on a fan. I'm hoping that it's not interfering with the mic, but I guess time will tell. If it is, if you're hearing a lot of interference right now, please let me know in the comments below so that I'll know not to do that again. But I am sweating like crazy, and if I turn on the air conditioner, it is extremely loud. I'm not sure why. I don't know. Probably needs to be fixed. All right. Now, let's look first at this. It says, yesterday's Q carpet bomb spells out who was ratting out who, shifted the deep state into defense mode. FISA goes both ways. Deep state being monitored, only difference is these FISA warrants were obtained legally. And this is by Lisa May Crowley. And let's look at this because I think it's important. All right, now, QAnon post number 2164 decode. Let's take a look at this. I think it's important. Now, how do you inflict maximum pain damage? You trickle out the information. I might have to make this smaller so I can read it. I know it's harder for you guys to read, but at least it's all on the same page for me. How do you inflict maximum pain damage? You trickle out the information that you hold, exposing ever so slowly that you have all of the proofs, bringing a constant state of fear, leading to panic and subsequent mistakes. Drop daily carpet bombs, rats running. Rats running, drop, release, mother of all bombs. And here it says, by releasing evidence daily in growing quantities, you build awareness and a growing anti-corruption sentiment in the public. As the releases grow in overall coverage, they lead to complete exposure of the seditious agenda in its entirety. Boom. And then we had the Sarah Carter that we read. And then Sessions and Flynn targeted for immediate recusal. The incoming power structure had to be kept weak, so Flynn and Sessions became the first and primary targets in the efforts of the soft coup d'etat. And then underneath, Sessions Senate confirmation vote, and Rod Rosenstein Senate confirmation vote. Sessions was the highest ranking position in the DOJ. That, coupled with the fact that the backup plan, insurance, was to have Rosenstein in control of the DOJ, he could then appoint the special counsel Mueller and maintain a position of control via direct oversight authority during the planned Russia probe. And it says Sessions, yes, 52, and 52 and no 47. Okay, there was 52 yes for Sessions and 47 no. Rosenstein, there was 94 yes and 6 no. The old guard is corrupt. Indeed, we know that. If you know what your enemy is planning, how do you prepare strategically? Like chess, you plan with military precision, many moves and or contingencies in advance. One of your best outcomes resides in your opponent's belief that they have one or more of your agents, officials on their team. Think today, left supporting Sessions, left defending Sessions, strategic advantage. Supporting and defending Jeff Sessions gives a strategic advantage, as is seen today. Sessions is the turtle in this marathon. And then with panic comes mistakes, betrayal, testimony. There is a natural progression of behavioral reactions that corrupt, guilty individuals will present psychologically when stressors are applied in their lives. Their panic is going to lead them to make mistakes. They will think of ways to save their freedom. Singing will become an option. Singing meaning, telling what they know. Stories may be told in the hope of abating any and all focus on themselves. And when that fails, testimonials looking for deals will proceed. With panic comes 13 dots, incarceration, apprehension, their downfall. And says these people are stupid. FISA goes both ways. The abuses put forth as evidence to procure a FISA warrant left a paper trail. FISA court proceedings are coming back to bite the corrupt signers' tails. And hoo-ah means winning. Now, let's go down here. Okay. And here we've got Sandra Smith spoke with Jim Jordan about Representative Mark Meadows sending a letter to Deputy AG Rosenstein, Attorney General Rod Rosenstein, alleging Strzok Page text reveal a media leak strategy. Jim Jordan, we're still waiting to get all the documents from Rod Rosenstein and the Justice Department. That's why we're pushed so hard. And Fox News, new Strzok Page text reveal others were leaking like mad in lead up to Trump-Russia probe. So that is just a recap and adding some additional information to that post to round out our knowledge. So let's go back. I think that is it for that post, and it is. So let's go up to the next one. That took a while to go through. All right, now let's take a look here. Reddit's QAnon ban points to how it's tracking toxic communities. Contains a virus and it doesn't spread. Yeah, and I'm sure by now you have heard that the Great Awakening board has been banned on Reddit, and it's gone. I found that out today, and it didn't surprise me, but it highly alarmed me. So let's look at this. Reddit has finally banned Great Awakening, the main QAnon subreddit, and then it banned the Great Awakening, the backup subreddit where users fled QAnon, the web of conspiracy theories which involved Donald Trump, Barack Obama, Hillary Clinton, and politicians and government officials stretching all the way back to Kennedy era, originated on 4chan, though Q, an anonymous person purporting to have a high-level security clearance, hang on here, through Q, an anonymous person purporting to have a high-level security clearance, it then quickly spread to Reddit, Facebook, and eventually offline. A spokesman confirmed to The Verge that the Reddit Great Awakening was banned for violating Reddit's policy against inciting violence, harassment, and the dissemination of personal information, while Reddit The Great Awakening was taken down for inciting harassment. The takedown comes on the heels of banning our $1 Million Extreme earlier this week. The community belonging to alt-right comedy troupe of the same name, led by Sam Hyde, Nick Rochford, and Charles Carroll. Reddit $1 Million Extreme and associated subs, Reddit Billion Shekel Supreme and Reddit Chad Wright, were banned from the site on Monday night, a Reddit spokesman confirmed to The Verge, citing violations of the company's most recent content policy update. Per the postings left in the place of the subreddits, MDE and Chad Wright were banned for violating the forum's violent speech guidelines, while BSS was taken offline to ban evasion. While previous Reddit bans have come about mostly as a result of extreme pressure, these are the first higher profile bans directly tied to Reddit's new, more explicit content policy, which was rolled out in October 2017. After years of inconsistency from the company's leadership, the site's handling of this set of bans suggests a more codified strategy being implemented against the board for policing toxic users. Reddit MDE ban follows a similar decision by YouTube in May to ban the group for content violations. Their comedy is what some would describe as edgy, racist, sexist, and homophobic. Adult Swim, which hosted the group's first show, $1 Million Extreme Presents World Peace, reportedly had to strip out swastikas and coded racist messages before the show aired. Likewise, the QAnon community is well known for its connection to high-profile figures like Roseanne Barr, the former star of her eponymous show, who lost her job after she tweeted a racist remark about former Obama advisor Valerie Jarrett in the context of a larger Q-related conspiracy. Since its founding in 2005 as a home for interesting links, Reddit has long defined itself as a space that values nearly absolute freedom of speech and expression. Yeah, right. We're a free speech site with very few exceptions, mostly personal info, and having to stomach occasional troll Reddit-like pics of dead kids or morally questionable Reddits like jailbait are part of the piece of free speech on a site like this, then General Manager Eric Martin said in one of the site's most popular Ask Me Anything threads in 2011. The R jailbait and R pics of dead kids subreddits have since been banned, along with many of their worst compatriots, but each ban has more or less been a one-off response to lengthy campaign from users, media, and the general public. Research suggests these bans are actually working to decrease the platform's share of awful content. As Reddit has grown more popular, it's become increasingly obvious that the norms and implied protections the site has offered are inadequate. Despite CEO Steve Huffman's continued waffling in his resolve to ban Reddit's worst actors, a change seems to be afoot. The week after last year's violent white supremacist rally in Charlottesville, Virginia, and 2 months before it would implement its current content guidelines, Reddit banned the subreddit R physical removal, a reference to former Chilean President Augusto Pinochet's habit of murdering his enemies by throwing them out of helicopters. The subreddit revolved around the idea that liberals and leftists specifically deserve to get a helicopter ride, as the New Yorker's Andrew Morantz reported in March. And I'm not going to go through all the rest of this, but It's interesting that QAnon is being lumped in with all that. I don't see anything on the Reddit board that would be morally reprehensible or damage. Sorry, I hit the table that has the mic, and it was probably loud. But anyway, there's nothing that I have ever seen on the Great Awakening board that is questionable. Perhaps maybe a few times, but not on a regular basis, and certainly not of any of the variety that one would consider harmful to society. But at any rate, it's getting to the point where all conservative voices are being censored, and I don't know, it's hard to believe that it's America, to tell you the truth. It really is. I've never seen the likes of it ever. And I know that this is all leading up to the midterm elections because they don't want our voices to be heard. So we'll see where it goes. But let's go back to Q. Now, he said, hang on one second. We got one more here. And I'm not going to read through this, but Reddit bans QAnon subreddit that features pro-Trump conspiracy theories. It was taken down for content policy violations, Reddit said. And I just don't see it's obviously going to be bias. So I'm just not going to read through this. The important part to know is that it has been banned for content policy violations, they say. Yeah. So let's go back to Q. And he says, content violations? Stay strong. Stay together. Censorship will fail. I don't know where this is coming from. Hang on here. Disclosure. I'm trying to get rid of wherever this is coming from. All right. Content violations, stay strong, stay together. Censorship will fail. You know what? This should be down here. It's like T-hose? What is T-hose? It's those, you idiot. Those they attack the most are the biggest threat. Expect Twitter, Facebook. I don't know what's wrong with me. Those they attack the most are the biggest threat. Expect Twitter, Facebook force next. AJ template was designed to attack censor QAnon. Primary objective. Now, what they're talking there about is there was a so-called template to take down Alex Jones, who is COINTELPRO, by the way. He has controlled opposition, and according to Q, he is backed by Mossad. Now, that template that was developed for him was also designed to attack censor QAnon. So they used the same template that was designed to attack censor QAnon to take down Alex Jones. But QAnon was the primary objective, not Alex Jones. And Q says to expect Twitter and Facebook next. So I don't know. I think it's going to get far, far worse before it gets better. I really do. I don't know what is going to happen, but this is critical because we're leading up to the midterms and all the conservative voices are being banned. And not for the reasons they say. I mean, you've got to look at some of the people that they've banned. Now, some of them have been reinstated, like Diamond and Silk, but really, I have a hard time seeing what would be offensive about Diamond and Silk. I love those ladies. I think they're awesome. And what are they doing? What are they saying that's offensive? Nothing, as far as I can see. And it's the same with others. And, I did say that I understood why Alex Jones got banned, but I am going to backtrack on that because somebody reminded me, and I do really stand for free speech. And I may not agree with what you say, but we need to defend people's right to say it. Because if I say, oh well, yeah, let's ban Alex Jones because I think that he's a controlled opposition and I don't want to hear what he has to say. Well, then that means that I can get banned too. Or you can get banned, or anyone else can get banned. And so we have to stick together whether we agree with the message or not. That person has a right to speak what they want to speak. Unless they're calling for the assassination of the president or something of that nature that is damaging. We deserve and we are entitled to free speech as part of our constitutional rights. So anyway, let's continue here. Now, let's go to this. Just in, 60 Minutes honcho Jeff Fager out at CBS. Network claims exit not directly related to sex misconduct allegations. So Jeff Fager is out at CBS, just another, casualty in this war because, well, we know that they're dropping like flies, and I'm not going to go out to this because I think that if it's something you're interested in, that's something you can go out and read. The important part is that there's another one that bites the dust here, according to Q, well, and according to Fox News. But, of course, CBS is saying it's not directly related to sex misconduct. But it was a rather abrupt exit, so one has to wonder. Now, Q says, sexual misconduct? Nothing to see here. Dominoes. Q. And of course, we know dominoes. When one falls, they all fall, and that's what's happening. It's just one right after another. And the thing is, if you're caught and you have ties to other people and you talk as part of a deal or whatever, then of course it's going to spread to others and so on and so forth. That's the way it works. So Q says nothing to see here. Yep. It's same old, same old. He's warned us about this and we've been seeing it all along. Now, let's go here. Now, I'm not sure what this is. It says catalog, Patriots fight, winner of the 52nd Attention Hungry Games, Vivian, happy birthday. There's nothing on here. So it's 8chan.net, Patriots fight /catalog. I'm not sure. So anyway, let's go back and see what Q has to say, because I'm just a little bit perplexed about that. Main points of interest only. It will serve as the main hub of all communications once all other sites tracking collapse. 8chan only. What part of another wave of attacks coming yesterday wasn't understood? This is not a game. So Q is warning us again that at some point the 8chan is, and Q has always said that there's no communications outside of that platform. That is where Q communicates. Q doesn't go on Facebook and Reddit and here and there and everywhere. He is only on 8chan at this point. And that is the only place. Now, people take those and put them on other platforms so that, they're easy to get to all in one place. But, they're just doing as I'm doing, taking and copying them and pasting them into another so that, there's more places to find them. But that is the only place that Q communicates. We've been told that. We know that. Anyone claiming otherwise is a liar. Now, the main point of interest only, it will serve as now, I guess this is going to be where Q posts in the future when everything's taken down, I don't know. But he said main points of interest only. It will serve as the main hub of all communication once all other sites tracking collapse. 8chan only. What part of another wave of attacks coming yesterday wasn't understood, because that's exactly what Q said. Another wave of attacks were coming. This is not a game, Q. And let's go up to the next one. And here he says he's responding to, I think, okay, this that he's responding to is this. In that case, Barack Obama needs to open more In that case, board owner needs to open more research boards. 70K posters extra on one board is simply not a workable situation. Now, here, let me see, where is 190? 190 is right here. He's referring to this as well. And this is the post that says, important, no private communications, past, present, future. No communications made outside of this platform. And someone has remarked, this is now becoming very literal. So Q is responding to those two posts, and he is saying, it's not 70K, it's 297,000. Not 70,000 posters, 297,000 posters. And then he says, military planning at its finest, Q. And I stuck this in here. Let's make it a little bit bigger. Good potential that the now gone subreddit, which showed 70,000, was actually running at 297,000. Time for shift as was planned in advance. Military planning at its finest. So there you go. Let's go up to the next. And it is this. Q posts this by Donald Trump. His tweet, I'm draining the swamp, and the swamp is trying to fight back. Don't worry, we will win. Yes, the swamp is fighting back, that's for sure. Now, here's another mother of all posts here. And I believe it is the last. Okay, so this last post will bring us up to date. So how do you demonstrate reasonable cause to regulate and or break up big tech? What is the common theme tactic of the left? Define fascism. And Q is going to make these definitions for us. And what is the main common theme tactic of the left? I would say to accuse others of what they themselves are doing. You know, how do you demonstrate reasonable cause to regulate and or break up big tech? Well, I think that the left are doing that by, by projection, by a lot of, in a lot of ways. But anyway, let's go on. Define fascism. Forcible suppression of opposition? Of course. And that's exactly what they're doing. That's exactly what the left are doing. They are forcibly suppressing us and our opinions. Define censorship. The institution, system, or practice of censoring. Now, he's putting it as a question mark, but of course it isn't a question. It's a statement. Define narrative. A way of presenting or understanding a situation or series of events that reflects and promotes a particular point of view or set of values. And that exactly is what they're doing. They are defining the narrative. If you go against the narrative, you are censored. Define projection. the attribution of one's own ideas, feelings, or attitudes to other people or to objects, especially the externalization of blame, guilt, or responsibility as a defense against anxiety. The forming of a plan, scheming. They're scheming. Define psychological projection, a theory in psychology in which the human ego defends itself against unconscious impulses or qualities, both positive and negative, by denying their existence in themselves while attributing them to others. Define narcissists. I've known a few of those in my life. A person who has an excessive interest in or admiration of themselves. Narcissists who think the world revolves around them. Narcissists preening themselves in front of the mirror. Define dogma. A point of view or tenet put forth as authoritative without adequate grounds. Define aggression. Forceful and sometimes overly assertive pursuit of one's aims and interests. Define suppression. The act of suppressing something such as an activity or publication. Bonus round. Woohoo! Narcissists are renowned for using psychological projection to blame other people, even when it is apparent that they are the ones in the wrong. Yep. Define realism. The quality or fact of representing a person, thing, or situation accurately or in a way that is true to life. Realism. Actions of Antifa and underneath, these are the actions of Antifa: aggression, projection, suppression, fascism, censorship, narrative dogma, actions of fake news, aggression. Actually, this should be here. Censorship, narrative dogma, actions of the fake news is aggression, projection, suppression, fascism, censorship, narrative dogma. When I copied this, I must have, okay. Actions of Twitter, Facebook, Google, YouTube, Reddit, etc. Aggression, projection, suppression, fascism, censorship, narrative dogma, bombs away. So he's going through the actions of Antifa, the fake news, Twitter, Facebook, Google, YouTube, Reddit. They're doing all the same things. All the same things. They're acting in the same way. Now, let's take a look at the article that Q wants us to look at. Sessions open to probe of social media giants, sources say. GOP states Attorney General already examining firms will brief Sessions. Trump has said Facebook, Google stifle conservative voices. Now, let's see what... So that's interesting. Let's close some of this down. All right, and let's go back. Take a look at the next one. Hey, Google, Facebook, Twitter, Trump's got a point. You need to do a better job of self-regulating. Love that. And we're waiting for a very slow internet.
Good evening, I'm Brett Baer. We're coming to you live tonight from the White House North Lawn. The president here is once again taking on news and social media. In fact, if you do a Google search on the words Trump and Google, you get results with words like rage, rigged, and conspiracy theory. President Trump is not happy with Google over what he calls suppression of conservative voices and positive news about his administration. Chief White House correspondent John Roberts has specifics tonight. Thanks for having us again.
Brett, good evening to you. Welcome to the sauna bath here in 1600 Pennsylvania. Officials from Google, Facebook, and Twitter are going to be testifying on Capitol Hill next week. The issue is foreign interference in the election, but there's certainly a few questions that President Trump would like to ask him if he had the chance.
Its corporate motto is do the right thing, but today President Trump accused Google of doing the wrong thing, of twisting search results to highlight negative stories about him and suppress conservative voices.
I think Google is really taking advantage of a lot of people, and I think that's a very serious thing, and it's a very serious charge.
The president singled out not just Google, but Facebook and Twitter, too.
You just can't do that. They're really treading on very, very troubled territory, and they have to be careful. It's not fair to large portions of the population.
The Oval Office remarks followed a morning Twitter rant where the president said it might be illegal, insisting this is a very serious situation, will be addressed. A Google search of the words Trump News yields mostly stories regarding his complaints about Google, including one that debunks his claim. But there is also a Vanity Fair article that comes up with the headline, Trump is nuts. Google denies any attempt to eliminate the positive and accentuate the negative.
Search is not used to set a political agenda, and we don't bias our results towards any political ideology.
President Trump also drew a sharp response from Mexico today. One day after cutting a new trade deal, the president said a border wall will be built and Mexico will pay for it.
The wall will be paid for.
Okay, that goes beyond the scope of what we're looking at right now, but it says President Trump is speaking forcefully about fixing a growing problem affecting our national discourse. He says we may need to regulate the giant tech companies that control vast swaths of our information landscape due to their bias. The president tweeted this week, Google search results for Trump News shows only the viewing reporting of fake news media. In other words, they have rigged for me and others so that almost all stories and news is bad. Fake CNN is prominent. Republican, conservative, and fair media is shut out. Illegal? Google, Facebook, and Twitter all claim they do not purposefully discriminate due to political viewpoints. We know, of course, we can trust them. But it's increasingly clear that this is the outcome, whatever their intentions. Twitter CEO Jack Dorsey admitted his firm suffers from left-leaning bias and must do more to work to ensure it doesn't affect Twitter. The question then becomes, what can President Trump do to affect this? The first thing is exactly what the president has been doing, using the bully pulpit to influence the social media companies to change their behavior. Government intervention should occur only as a last resort because this would infringe on free speech and expression. The social media firms need to take it upon themselves to solve the problems they have created, in many cases due to their own success. Google, Facebook, and Twitter dominate the online world in the same way that ABC, CBS, and NBC dominated the world of television prior to cable TV. There are really no alternatives to these social media companies. That gives them great power, but also great responsibility. Thus far, they have done better wielding the first than honoring the second. Hopefully, the social media companies will heed the president's warning. But if not, what can he do? In this election season, the president could direct the Federal Election Commission to investigate the practices of the social media companies. The commission could examine whether suppressing conservative ideas, including in some cases the accounts of Republican candidates, constitutes an in-kind contribution to the Democratic Party and its candidates. Security Studies Group submitted a complaint to the Federal Election Commission asking for this type of investigation into Twitter with a reference to the fact sheet on viewpoint discrimination we compiled. Another avenue is to have the Federal Communications Commission look at the immunity granted to the social media companies as internet service providers under Section 230 of the Communications Decency Act. This immunity for the companies exempts them from defamation lawsuits because they are considered to be distributors of content rather than publishers that exert editorial control. It is reasonable to consider whether the amount of control these companies exert in deciding what content is available or not available changes this status. Google, Facebook, and Twitter are private companies. They have the right to have policies to promote liberal ideas and ban conservative ones from their platforms. But as publicly traded companies, they have a responsibility to speak honestly about their business practices. They can't have their CEOs saying they do not discriminate if it can be shown they do. President Trump could ask the Securities and Exchange Commission to examine whether the three companies are misleading their shareholders and the public. There is also a question of whether the success of the social media companies has made them indispensable for businesses, organizations, and many individuals. If so, there is the possibility they could be declared to be public utilities and regulated that way to prevent discrimination. This regulation has been imposed previously on electric power and telephone companies. If there is no alternative to their services or to their service and they are denying service to some businesses, organizations, and individuals, that is a legitimate government concern. The goal here should not be to find new ways for government to insert itself into the digital town square as some kind of referee, but right now the public discourse is being limited and the social media companies are refusing to fairly serve some of their customers. This refusal is dangerous, hindering the ability of people to be informed and act on the information they receive. Let's hope the Silicon Valley crew decides to take action to make this right. So let's go back to Q here and go to the next one. And I'm not going to read this next one. It says, hey, Google, Facebook, Twitter, Trump's got point, need to do better job of self-regulating. We agree with this. There is no doubt about it. Massive fake news, attention for a conspiracy Reddit board being banned. Why are we being targeted by some of the largest media organizations on the planet? And that's a good question, because why are they being targeted? If it's just a conspiracy theory, it's just a LARP, it's just a conspiracy, why such attention on it? You know, it's like, you know, when, okay, you got a child and it's acting up, okay? And you're like, okay, that's ridiculous behavior. A lot of times, if you ignore it, it goes away. You don't bring attention to it because a lot of, you know, children and adults thrive on negative attention. So if they really believe this is a conspiracy, why are they giving it any airtime? Right? Doesn't make sense. It makes no sense. All right, so massive fake news attention. Oh, this annoys me. Massive fake news attention for a conspiracy Reddit board being banned. Why are we being targeted by some of the largest media organizations on the planet? And he gives an example. Now, I'm not going to go through all of these. I'm going to mainly read we've looked at this already. Reddit's QAnon ban points to how it's tracking toxic communities. And let's go back. And here, Reddit bans QAnon conspiracy theory forums. NBC Washington, Reddit bans QAnon Great Awakening subreddits. NBC News, Tech News, Reddit bans QAnon subreddits after months of violent threats. Oh, really? I have seen no violent threats. Not aware of that at all, and I am on the Great Awakening board a lot. Washington Post, Reddit bans Great Awakening, the main subreddit for QAnon conspiracy theorists. And here we've got Reddit banned QAnon, and here, just a separate one actually, Slate.com, Reddit banned QAnon conspiracy theory message boards. That must have been part of the 4 a.m. drop, don't you think? Since they're all reporting the exact same thing. Must have been. Newsweek, QAnon, Great Awakening subreddit conspiracy theory, QAnon, latest storm. The Hill, Reddit bans QAnon subreddit. Engadget.com, Reddit bans QAnon communities. DailyDot.com, Reddit bans QAnon forum, Great Awakening. Motherboard.vice.com, Reddit bans the Great Awakening subreddit responsible for mainstreaming QAnon conspiracy theories. And New York Magazine, Reddit bans major QAnon message board, Reddit Great Awakening. And Twitter, let's look at this because this looks like it might be a little bit different, but who knows. Just in, Reddit bans QAnon subreddits after months of violent threats, NBC News. Violent threats, eh? Interesting. I never read any violent threats on there. Have any of you guys? I mean, am I missing something? Am I, have I been hiding under a rock? I haven't seen anything. Panic in D.C. Statements start a fire. 12 moves ahead. Suicide watch. Q. Now, let's look at this. This is not from Q. I'm just adding this in here. It's from Lisa Mae Crowley. And she said, Sessions has ammo to investigate these fascist big tech platforms. They censor us, suppress our content, and want to control the narrative. They project what they're guilty of and attack us aggressively, Antifa, and with fake news. Panic. And Q lays out questions and answers that are the methodology of deep state social control mechanisms and their push to inflame the outrage machine, i.e. the Dems' agenda to hashtag violence through an unawakened state, which has been disseminated using hashtag weaponized media. Lot more to post. 12 links. Another Q drop that needs further attention on a much larger medium. So, yeah, there's a lot in this post, and it's interesting. I don't know. I don't know what to say. I mean, it's getting worse every day. Every day we're hoping it gets better, and every day it gets worse. More people get banned. More, now Reddit. I was not expecting that, actually. I really wasn't expecting Reddit to do that. And it shocked me a little. I mean, I shouldn't be surprised, but anyway, I think that we need to be aware, alert, that this is just it's a war, and this is how they're fighting the war. They're censoring our voices, because the less we're heard, the less, and the more that they squawk, the more that they, tell the mistruths, the more believable they seem. Because if you tell a lie often enough, it becomes believable. And that's all people are hearing, is the view they want you to hear on all the news stations. I actually got a little Roku streaming stick, actually, and that works great because I don't have cable, because I don't watch TV enough to merit paying for cable, and I don't like to pay to be indoctrinated. But I got this little Roku stick, and if you don't know what that is, you can look it up. But I'm able to stream through my internet all sorts of free channels, and I was just kind of scrolling through and listening, and I was like, oh my gosh, they're like parrots of one another. They're saying the exact same thing in the exact same way, the exact same slant, the exact same bias, and I'm like, my gosh, it's just this giant groupthink. But anyway, that is it for Q for yesterday. Q has not posted today that I'm aware of, at least the last time I checked. He had not. I do have a lot of Q-related news to go through, so I may do another couple videos tonight if time permits. So that's it for tonight, though, and I wish you all well. I am especially thinking about you guys that are in the path of the hurricane. My thoughts and prayers are with you. Please, if you are a believer, say a prayer for those in the path of this storm. And I will see you guys soon, talk to you soon. Stay well and stay safe.